Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Oleg and welcome to my channel Arkanfell. I'm a hobbyist game designer and today I would like to talk about the first video in a series of videos about a project I've been working on together with a fellow game dev. His name is Chris Black. He's been doing the majority of the heavy lifting like programming, and I've been more focused on art. In the following discussion we will talk about the game in general, show some interesting footage, the before and the current state of the game, and give you some insight on the game engine and how things work behind the curtain. But before we start, thank you to all the new subscribers. The channel is currently over 200 subscribers. That's awesome, thank you very much guys, let's keep going. Please keep in mind, this is a passion project by just two guys who are into game dev and just would like to share this experience with you. So, Chris, can you please introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Chris Black and we're going to talk a little bit about our project today.
Maybe let's talk a bit about how we ended up working together, because it's related to the game software, the game engine you using to build this game.
A few years back we did participate in the same game jam, and it turns out that we both use Click Team Fusion, which is actually what we're using on this project right here. It's a little bit outdated in some respects, but it does get the job done.
I made a couple of jam games and I made one commercial game so far, and you made actually, I believe, two games, right? Two commercial games and a lot of prototypes.
Yeah, and now we're making this fun little top-down shooter with some adventure aspects to it.
We have a character that resembles a cowboy. He has two guns and he has this large cowboy hat, and he wanders in this empty post-apocalyptic world and kills robots or something. I mostly see myself as someone who makes the majority of the art and throws in some interesting ideas about maybe mechanics or gameplay, how the world or the player should interact with the world, and trying to make it consistent. You're making the majority or basically all of the programming.
Yeah, that's right. So I am taking on the technical load here. It's a lot of work. I mean, artwork's a lot of work too. So it's a good thing there are two of us on it. I have years of experience in fiddling around with Click Team Fusion, so to have some of that weight lifted off of my shoulders is a total blessing. I can focus more on the things that I know about the most.
Maybe let's talk a bit about the progress we made so far. I remember the builds you sent me before, because you started working on the game before me, and I joined a bit later, mostly focusing on the art again. And the builds you sent me before were like just this cowboy running around and shooting, and there was not much to do else.
Back then there were no gameplay builds, just the character running around in the editor. So it did start off as nothing, but as time went on, it eventually developed into what you see now.
Compared to now, we have enemies, right? We have destructible objects, we have houses you can go in. Yeah, and more is on the way. The thing is also we are constantly updating the visuals, the improving the art style, and also adding small details like wind or dust particles when you jump up and down, small things like that to improve the feeling of the game. We still want to keep it simple, like those old school games in some sense.
This game captures the 8-bit spirit, that old school feeling, without giving up too much to those retro elements. So it does have that modern twist to it, not too modern though. And I think it'll be a real treat for retro gaming enthusiasts.
And speaking of retro things, you're making pretty cool music for this, with this kind of retro spirit.
A retro game means retro music, and this music is so retro that you can actually play it on original Game Boy hardware, but I'll spare you the technical details for now.
Yeah, maybe let's talk about not necessarily the story, because this is something that we are still working on. There are gonna be some quest items and some power-ups at some point, right?
So there are going to be quest items that you need to actually complete the game, some permanent upgrades, temporary upgrades, and a little something extra for all of you completionists out there.
Maybe let's talk a bit about the art, because we thought it's gonna be much more simple and it's not gonna take us so much time if we make smaller tiles or, you know, smaller sprites. But in the end, it became a bit of a hassle, you know, to trying to draw things within a frame of a 16 by 16 pixel tile.
When it comes to these smaller sprites, there's less for us to animate, which is great. However, it does become harder for us to detail things, and I think that the player sprite is a very good example of it.
It is quite challenging. It actually is, because there's only so much space, so much pixels to work with, and you have to, you know, create distinct shapes, forms. Because it's so limited, I think it's also a bit of a kind of relief, because we cannot go overboard with ideas. Another very important area of the game we are putting a lot of effort into is, you know, the actual world with all its maps and areas to visit. We have additional bunkers and houses, so there are basically three layers to the game.
We do have an overworld, an equally sized underworld, and a ton of houses and other locations that you'll be able to visit.
And how big is the world actually? Because at some point we thought, well, maybe we should make it bigger, but then we realized it's actually quite big as it is right now.
The overworld and the underworld will be 16 by 8 screens, which doesn't sound like much, but once you jump into the action, it's more than enough, I think. We've accomplished a lot since we started working on this project, and there's still a little bit left to do, but hopefully we'll have more to share soon, and stay tuned.
So yeah, that was the discussion about the project without proper name yet, but if you have any suggestions, if you have any feedback from what you could see from the footage, please let me know in the comments. I read all the comments, I answer all the comments. I hope this video could give you also some insight on how things work or maybe not work, and, you know, inspire you to start maybe your own game, start your own projects, regardless of game engine or skill level. Thank you very much for watching, and have fun with your projects. Bye.